Can you stay here?
I just feel like there's constantly just something behind me.
But
So now that we're actually live, this is our first EVP session. Ghost Hunt Nation. My name is Mike Johnson. This is my lovely wife,
Marissa.
And then we have Lanita, a coworker and one of our first time Ghost Hunt participants here with us.
So Lanita and I, we have been working together. She and I became really close when she started with our company, and so over time we just got to know each other and started just talking about what we do on the side. And one of the things I do on the side, obviously, is this. And so she became really, really invested and took her time to learn all about it. And then next thing you know, she's joining us on an investigation, which she has never participated in before. So that's what puts her at that. She's that special guest level. And
like we said before, I forgot to hit the record button here. This is the second take, but Lanita is all of our favorite person.
Yes.
And
yes.
very special person in
Yes.
the Johnson household.
Yes. Hashtag we
So-
love Lanita.
Yes, absolutely. So Lanita, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself before we get going?
born and raised in Illinois on a farm. Very country girl. And my husband and I moved to the Chattanooga area 2 years ago. And I started working with Marissa about 2 years ago. And when she brought up that she had a company, Ghost Nation and stuff, and I was so intrigued. And it was just like, tell me about it. And we hadn't worked very long together when she brought it up. And it kind of surprised me because it was like, normally people get to know each other a little bit more before they start telling stuff like this. And she immediately told me, and I was so receptive and open because I was fascinated with it. And then I even told her, like, my past, like back when I was in Illinois, I kept meeting people that saw people or saw spirits and heard things in their homes. And it became kind of like, I don't know if those people are attracted to me for a reason because I'm open or I listen or I don't know what it is, but it was just so weird that Marissa immediately started telling me about it. And it was just almost like my gateway to actually talking to someone and asking questions. And I just kept getting more and more and more and more intrigued. And then when she offered and said, you know what? Do you want to go on a ghost hunt with us? And I was just like, yes. And I'm addicted and I love it. But that's kind of my background is just kind of like just Christian and but I've always known that something's out there.
And you mentioned you were a realtor, right?
Yeah.
So you had these people like mentioning these
so many
things
people
were happening.
Met so many people come into open houses and all of a sudden they would just start telling me that they saw things. And in fact, so yeah, I had two girlfriends that one of them, I remember pulling up to a house once, and I didn't know this at the time, but I remember pulling up to a house in Joliet, Illinois. I parked, I got out of the vehicle, and they stayed in the vehicle. And I kind of thought they were talking about the house or the neighborhood. So I kind of stood there for a minute, and then they motioned for me to get back in the car. And I got back in, and they're like, no, this isn't the right house for us. And I was like, oh, okay. Okay. So we left and went to the next house. It wasn't until they told me probably 6 to 9 months later that they saw someone up in the window.
Oh, wow.
And it was a vacant home. And someone was standing at the window and she saw the person and she could tell that they did not want us in the home. And that's why we didn't even go into the house. So, and then she gave me all these like backs, like she like, remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this. And I'm like, oh my God, I remember all this. Like we would walk in a house and all of a sudden she's like, I'm not feeling good. And we'd leave. Or it was just, it was interesting. And her and her girlfriend kind of had this like code of when to get out of the house. And it was just interesting. And I had another girlfriend that actually came over to my house one day to drop off something for Christmas. And we're talking, having a whole conversation. And she turned and it was just me in the house. And she turned and she said, who's sitting on your couch? And I kind of just like looked at her and I go, what? And then she just like ignored it. like she just kept talking. And it wasn't until I got to know her more better that she said that someone was sitting on my couch. And then when she realized I didn't see the person, she knew it was probably a spirit and she didn't want to scare me. So
Oh,
So,
wow.
so were you older? Were
this
you
is a
like
few
in your
years ago. Yeah,
career?
this is a few years ago.
Did you did you have anything like in your childhood that you ever
Mm-mm,
seen? So no paranormal
mm-mm,
stuff growing up,
mm-mm.
no
But
crazy
all the other
aunts and
people
uncles
around
that
me,
chase
nope,
ghosts.
all the people around me, which
Okay,
I've always found odd. I remember once with a realtor, it was this young couple, they had 2 kids, and this was probably like 8, 9, 10 years ago. They bought a house, and she texted me, the wife did, within like the first 2 days, and she texted me and said, "Did the old lady die in this house?" Well, by law, I can't disclose that in Illinois, that's
right.
law. And I said, "Oh, I don't know why." And she said, "Because the bitch keeps moving my cell phone and she keeps waking me up in the middle of the night, telling me to keep my kids, like, tell them to shut the fuck up. They're talking too loud. They're playing too loud." And I'm like, she texted this to me, and I was like, "Oh,
Jeez.
wow." So then I called my broker, and he's like, "Yeah, don't engage." But she felt so comfortable to let me know that someone was in her house, and she knew it was the
Yeah.
old lady. So it was like, this isn't like the first, like, but I've never seen anything. But
You're like a
I've had
gateway.
people that come to me. Marissa, I just told you just a week ago, I was in
Mhm.
Unawa at a place
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and in there shopping for my mom for Easter stuff. And out of the blue, I don't know what I gave out there, but all of a sudden she started talking about spirits and
Mhm.
that she believed in
Mhm.
spirits and she sees spirits. And I'm like, oh my God, you keep telling me this stuff. So I don't know what it is about me, but I've never seen anything. So,
Well, I think I can speak on behalf of those, especially those that are very comfortable talking to you. I mean, I've witnessed for myself people just they divulge everything to you because yeah, you are. You're very open,
mhm,
you're very receptive,
mhm.
and in reference to the other side, those of us who feel things, see things, hear things, whatever, you do feel like a very safe place
Okay.
to you do. Like, and for the fact that you just attract those kinds of
Yeah. Isn't
people,
that crazy?
it
Yeah.
it's kind of like a phenomenon. So I mean, I think I've said this to you multiple times in multiple different ways and conversations. Like, yeah, you've got a gift.
Oh,
There is no doubt. Like, and you're just like, I don't know what it is.
I don't, people just tell me things. Tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so that's kind of, and I've just always been intrigued. And then you were the first person that, like, kind of not only opened the door, but kind of pushed me through the door a little bit and kind of pulled me
Mm-hmm.
through the door because I know I wanted to go on later to experience this, but it
Mm-hmm.
felt like I was safe with you. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
No,
was a
that
So
makes sense.
safety. So I was like, oh, I like going through this door.
let's get into that.
Yeah.
Had you ever even heard about? We'll start with Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had you ever heard about the place before that night? Like before Marissa
Never been to
mentioned
Southburg.
maybe we were doing a ghost hunt?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Never heard about it. You don't watch any of the ghost hunting shows or
No.
not really?
No, but
Okay.
back when I was a realtor, I would go into houses that were built in like 1860 and
Mm-hmm.
1870. And I would go into those homes and other people could sense things around me, but I couldn't. But
Yeah.
I know that there were shows filmed there. And
Oh
so I was
wow.
intrigued by that.
Okay.
But then I got to stand in a house that was built in 1863. And I knew that
Mm-hmm.
a television crew had been through there, but I've never really been that involved in it. I mean, I guess I don't know why,
Yeah.
but just
Well, since you Michael did just bring up Old South Pittsburgh, that's kind of where I was gonna go next. Was I do wanna give you the chance to share like your full blown first time experience while you were there, and so think of like I'm gonna ask you a whole lot of things about like just the timeline because I want people to hear the way that you encountered this.
yeah.
Like, this is not something that you've done ever.
Mm-mm.
You've been around people that
Yeah.
are just like, they're naturally drawn to you because, and they see things, hear things, all that. So I want to make sure that we put out there how this was for you as a first timer. And just, so that's, when he brought up Old South Pittsburgh. So you didn't know anything about it
Mm-mm.
prior
Mm.
to signing up to go. You didn't research anything about it, even after you bought the tickets and you made the plans to go. So when you pulled up in the parking lot, because I will put this out there too, Lanita is early for everything, so she got there before we did.
I was like
And we're
45
usually
minutes.
late for everything.
It was like 45 minutes early. I was out there
always
for
like
praying,
super late.
but I was out there praying. Remember?
Yeah,
I was out
yeah.
there
So I
praying.
want you to I want you to talk about like, so you pull up in the parking lot and what's kind of going through your head? What are you doing and how are you like prepping yourself for doing something you've never done before?
Well, you had told me that we were going to be up all night, which was interesting. So I kind of changed my sleep schedule a couple days prior. But during that time, I kept praying. Like my nightly prayers, like, God, if I'm not supposed to do this, is this something I'm not supposed to do? If I'm not, give me a headache, make me sick to my stomach, give me the flu, give me a flat tire in my car, but if I'm doing something wrong. And I kept waiting for that signal because I do think God speaks to you. And I kept waiting for it. And it was like, no, I feel okay about this. I didn't feel guilty or nervous or scared. So I thought, okay, this is okay. So when I did pull up, and I was so nervous driving because it's about a 45-minute drive for me. And then I pulled up and I was the only car in the parking lot. And just sat there, and I took a picture of the outside, sent it to my husband, and said, if I don't come out, this is what it looks like. As a joke.
It kind of looks like one of those places.
It did. I was
too.
like, I don't know. There's curtain blowing out the window. There's the windows are open or not there or whatever. And I just sat out in the car and I just kept looking at it and I prayed. And I just kept praying. Like, am I not supposed to go in there? Are you sure? Is this okay? And I know that sounds so weird, but I was raised Pentecostal and I was raised very Christian, but I've always, again, I think in church they talk about there's good spirits and there's bad spirits and there's spirits all around us. And
absolutely.
And I kept waiting for that sign and there never happened.
You didn't seem nervous.
And
you didn't seem nervous.
Yeah, normally I'm nervous when I like talk in front of a large group of people. Sometimes I get nervous. I remember like in high school, like whether it's sports or cheerleading or like I'd always have to go to the bathroom. I would always get nervous. I'd always feel sick to my stomach. I never felt that. And it was so interesting that I felt very calm about the process. I can't, I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I was doing something bad or evil or you're not supposed to be here and how dare you go to church in a couple days or in the next day or something like that. I felt very like, no, this is a learning experience. Like people were coming up with like coolers with, remember they were like, had their pop and their snacks and like, and I showed up with my cell phone, my car keys. And I remember thinking, man, I'm an amateur because all these people like were prepared. And I was ignorant. I'm normally obviously a talker, but I was still quiet because I was so watching everything.
Well, so you guys went, y'all, you did a tour of the whole entire facility first before we started the investigation. So that was pretty much your only insight to what you were up against or what the history of it was and all of that. And then we all go back downstairs and eat a little bit and all of that stuff. So then you knew, like, at that point, I can get out of here if I want to.
Yeah.
Which you already knew, like, you can bail whenever you're ready.
You always said that.
We're not going to hold anybody hostage.
You said that if you ever feel uncomfortable or anything like that, you can leave. Someone will walk you out to the car. So I always knew that, but I never wanted to leave.
Yeah. So that was my question. Was like, you knew at that point could go at any time. Like, what would you say was the driving force that was like, oh hell no, I'm staying for this. I got to see this.
Everyone seemed normal because I didn't know who was going to be at the event. So I don't know what expectations I actually had, but there was a mom's son. I think it was a geologist was there, but there were like all these really. And again, it sounds so weird to say nice, normal people, but I don't know what I was expecting because I've never seen anything on TV or YouTube. So I wasn't for sure, like, if I was expecting people to, like, I don't know. But everyone comes normal. Yeah, freak. Like, I was thinking, what am I in for? And then everyone walked in. They're all normal and they're laughing and like, oh, you're a newbie. Oh, you're a virgin at this. Yay. And they're like giving me advice and they were so engaging and
Mm-hmm.
And it made me feel comfortable too. Like, I don't know, they
Yeah.
were answering questions, and I was, of course, had a million questions, but
Yeah.
I
And
felt
that was a good starter of it because you had AJ and Ashley there who were kind of like the custodians
yes,
of that
and they
place.
make you
Yeah.
feel comfortable
Yeah.
and calm, and I
Yeah.
loved that. And then Marissa, you
Yeah.
and I remember we walked. Remember, you wanted to show me the tour of the hospital. I think we only went to the second or third floor. Was it on the
Mm-hmm.
second floor or something like that?
I think it's the second
Yeah,
floor.
we did a
Yeah.
quick tour because you were starting to
Mm-hmm.
set up some of the equipment. And you're like, hey, do you want to come
Mm-hmm.
with me?
Yeah, I think they were trying to keep Marissa from hearing like too
That's
many
exactly.
facts because
Yeah.
they wanted to test her
I didn't
later to
know
see
this
if
though.
what she
Yeah, I
had.
knew
Yeah.
none of
Yeah.
this. I didn't know any of this. Don't forget. So you
Right.
told me the next day. I had no idea. I had no idea because I kept thinking, why is Marissa not with us? And she's like, oh, no, I'm going to set up equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea that when AJ and Ashley took us to room to room to room to room to room and gave us the history, there was a reason for it, that why you weren't with. And I had
Mm-hmm.
no idea. And I was absorbing everything.
Yeah.
Like I was
Yeah.
just, oh my
And
God.
that was Marissa's first time at
Because I was like, where's Marissa? Like, where's Marissa? And it's like, oh, she's setting up the equipment and stuff. And, you know, she kind
She
of,
brought me here
yeah.
and just abandoned
Yeah.
me.
And then
Just
left me
left
with
me.
these strangers
she
in an
just kind of gets,
abandoned building.
and I thought, okay,
What a
maybe she
great
just has to get in her
friend.
zone. Maybe she has to. So I was like, oh, maybe that's what she needs to
Pregame.
do. She needs to separate from the chatter.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought. So I had no idea any of this stuff. None.
Well, I'm glad you didn't think I abandoned you.
No,
So.
no, no, no. So
So yeah, let's talk about like when everything got started. There was we basically do the same thing at every event. Like we give everybody the rules. And do you remember any of the kind of like the do's and don'ts that we put out there?
Mhm.
Just by chance, if you don't remember, it's
yeah,
fine.
just like the
Sometimes I
age,
forget.
and then like buddy system,
Yes.
which was a huge thing for
Yes.
me.
Lanita will keep you on
Oh,
that buddy
I am
system.
Yes.
so
Let me tell you.
on check.
I love it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like never go by
Yeah.
yourself in case something were to happen. You see something, hear something. So yeah, buddy
Mm-hmm.
system I know was a big thing. Being respectful
Mm-hmm.
with other people, and like I kept getting scolded because I kept putting a light. Remember, I kept turning on my light because I couldn't see because I'm old, so I couldn't see. And everyone was like, "Turn your light off! Turn your light off!" But so yeah, I remember the rules, and but then I'm such a rule follower, so I kind of just
Mm-hmm.
mimicked whatever you guys were doing. So
Yeah.
you guys stopped talking, I stopped talking. If you could, and it just did what you guys did. But I like that the rules that there weren't it wasn't a huge group of people to distract.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that I found really interesting because I can't imagine being on a ghost hunt and hearing laughter, like
Mhm.
hearing girls giggling or
Mhm.
boys harassing each other or running up and down the hallways, because you have to be so quiet and I think
Mhm.
respectful.
Yes.
Yes.
And I appreciated that because I didn't know what to expect. Do people come in there? Are they obnoxious? Do they just do whatever they want? And it wasn't like that. It was very
Mhm.
respectful. And that was important to me too. Because I think you have to respect the process.
No, I like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I appreciate you saying that too. Just because like that is a big thing
Oh.
for us is being respectful, especially of spirits who are like, who is this? Who is this group of people coming in here and they're demanding that I say their
Yeah, because
like it's gotta
12
be
of us.
weird.
I think there was like 12 of us or something. It was like a perfect number.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
We always take 10, and then we had AJ and
Yeah, it was
Ashley from the
perfect.
West
Because
End.
again, I can't imagine
Yeah.
listening to people running or yelling or laughing or joking, and I would just been like, "You guys shut up."
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's-
I love
yeah.
That's how we feel.
Huh?
That's our major thing.
Love
I
it.
mean, it's
Mhm.
all about respect. It's a whole lot easier to keep respect
Yeah.
and keep everything maintained with less people.
Mhm.
So, especially with that place, I mean, they had not a great history. The last owner kind of let the place go to shit,
Yeah.
just to be
Yeah.
honest. And then the new owner, Ronnie, come in, and he's done a lot with the place to turn it around. So
Mhm.
It's fast.
definitely the last thing you want to do there is disrespect anything. So.
Let's talk about a little bit more of like parts of the investigation. So so we went to every floor.
Mm-hmm.
We walked around and did used all the equipment in different ways. So I think we started in the body box, right?
Well, actually, before that, remember we went into
We started in Jim's room.
Jimmy.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I was going to say Ronnie.
yeah.
Jim's room.
That's right.
And it was still daylight. Remember,
Mhm.
because they wanted to
Mhm.
take us on a tour. So we,
Mhm.
and that's when you weren't with us.
Mhm.
And I couldn't figure out where you were. And I thought, oh, she just needs to get into her zone. And we were all standing in the room. And I was standing in a corner. And I forget the gentleman's name that was standing next to me, a really young guy. And I remember Ashley was talking about the guy that lived there and what he liked and what he was about and his history. And then she said he died in this room. And everyone was like, oh, that's sad. And then she pointed, who I thought was pointing to the guy next to me, and said, they found him right where you were standing. And I turned to him and I was like, oh. And she goes, no, where you're standing, and pointed at me. And I went, oh. And so out of respect, for some reason, I moved over for some reason. I just felt like I couldn't stand where he had died or where they found him. And I stepped over. And then I remember it wasn't 30 seconds, 45 seconds, you come in the room. And I remember I was excited to see you because I'm like, oh, yay, Marissa's joining us. She must have done whatever it was she was doing. She's going to start going on the tour. I didn't know until later that you were making your rounds and you were doing your own looking, observing. And I remember Ashley caught you off guard and she said, Marissa, this is where Jimmy died. Do you know where he died at or where they found his body? And I remember you standing there and you didn't look at me. You didn't look at Ashley. You didn't look at anybody. You just stood there for a minute. And then you came over and you stood right where I had just been standing. And I remember and that was the first time that I actually got to witness something that I was like, because you've never been there.
Right.
You didn't hear her just say any of this stuff. You wouldn't have seen me step over. Because how would I have stepped over? I could have stepped to the right, to the front, to the back, you didn't know where I was, but I found that so interesting. And I remember everyone was really excited. Like, oh my God, that's crazy. That was my very first experience. And I thought that was just amazing. And then we went and did remember, because I was talking to you and I remember we were one of the last two going into the room and they already had all those little lights.
The tripwire.
Yeah. And I remember, and I was like, what do I do? And you're like, just sit it. And I remember sitting by you and everyone was setting up their equipment. So that was my first.
I love that. I love that was because I forgot about Jim's room that had happened.
Remember.
And that's pretty, that's
That was
actually
one of the
pretty.
first things that happened to.
And don't
Yeah,
forget, we
like-
come back later to that room and something else happened.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That is right. So I had forgotten about the first part of that. And I love that that's like, that was your first kind of, oh, I got something already going on right here. Like that was your like interpretation.
You didn't hesitate.
Yeah.
It was like 15 seconds and you literally didn't look at anybody. So nobody could have been like, you just walked. And when you walked toward me, I remember I was like, oh. And you just stood right next to me. It was like, that was,
oh my God, my friend's a freak.
I was like, that's so interesting. But it was neat. It really was.
Right.
Like I didn't know what to expect.
Like the way that
And
they
the thing
televise
is,
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you did watch any of those ghost shows, you'll know you're gonna see a demon full on for sure. You know,
that's how they
absolutely.
tell
There's
it.
a demon in every
I
episode.
never thought. What's so weird is I never felt scared or felt like someone was going to do something. If that makes, I mean,
Yeah.
I've never, like, normally I'm a bit of a chicken, so I wasn't scared. It was interesting. It was
Okay.
very interesting.
What was your takeaway from the room that had the body box in it? So pretty much everybody got a chance to go in there. And what do you remember the most, I guess? Like, what was your most memorable moment from that room, since that's where we did kind of start after?
I was surprised when I walked in there because it was already so dark, because I guess by that time it had been so dark and I hardly could see anybody until my eyes got adjusted. And I remember not sure where to sit, and you told me to sit by you. and I just saw all these lights. And they were
Mhm.
strings of lights they were setting up, and there was all this equipment. Everyone had their cell phones out. And
Mhm.
I remember like, oh, this is for real now. So that was the first time because when we were in Jen's room, it felt more like,
Casual.
yeah, like going through a
Yeah.
museum. Like, oh, this is
Yeah.
where Abe Lincoln got shot type. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It was a little bit more casual until we walked in there and it was like, oh, this is serious. And I
Mhm.
didn't
Yeah.
realize how serious. Like it was very, like, I don't know. And that I enjoyed. And then just listening to you guys all talk, and you guys were so engaging. And then I remember the
Mhm.
first time I heard a voice come out of the box, and I remember like, and I was expecting everyone else to go, and nobody did it me. And I was like, okay, I got to keep it tuned down because I'm going to like, I was
No.
excited. And then I remember,
No, you actually never have to keep it
oh
tuned
yeah,
down. We're all on the inside, even though we we don't know what to expect either. Every investigation, it's like the first one, if you think about it, because it's like I know for certain as soon as I hear one, I'm like, oh yeah,
yeah,
oh
see, oh,
yeah,
and that's funny.
oh
And I remember
yeah,
when the lights lit up,
oh yeah,
and
yeah,
that
yeah.
freaked me out. And then I was like, just
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, oh my gosh, this is for real. Like, this is for real. No one's touching it. No one's breathing on it. No one's going by it.
So you saw it
And
for
all of a
the
sudden,
first time,
mhm,
like yeah,
when you
like
said,
oh, I'm
"Could
in
you
the
light
shit now.
something up?" And then they did it, and it's just like, "Oh, but this shit's for real." Like, it really, and I remember my heart just pounding because it was just so, because it's like with your senses, because I think
Mm-hmm.
when you're in the dark, other senses are heightened.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, just the hearing was heightened.
Mm-hmm.
And so just listening for every little sound and being like, and hearing stuff,
Yep.
I thought that was neat. And then when you asked me if I wanted to go into the box,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, yeah, like,
Yeah, you did.
I
You
know.
were like, I'll do it.
She's a
I was
trooper.
so yeah, you're a trooper, that's for sure. Like you hit every single
I was
mark that
intrigued.
night.
It helped that Michael
First
was sitting
time and
across from me because I had eye contact. Because
yeah.
I don't think I let my eyes off Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember,
And we'll have a recap of all
yeah.
this. Like eventually we'll have that video.
Okay,
up,
yeah,
but-
because I think I was pretty much on this. I remember I would not put my back against the chair. And I remember that.
I
Yeah.
don't blame
My
you.
butt was barely on the chair. And I think it's so I
Mhm.
could move quicker if I felt I had to get up and not
Oh
be so
yeah.
casual. And I don't know what I was expecting. I kept thinking something was going to come around my neck.
I mean, that's
Like someone was
a
going to touch
reasonable
me.
expectation.
Like,
Like if you
Exactly.
don't know
Yeah.
what's going on in there, like that I could easily see that
but I
being
kept looking at
and-
Michael because I thought if I look at him and this sounds so stupid. If he sees something behind me, I'm going to see it on his expression. And then I can
yes.
get up. Because I thought he'll go like,
Uh,
oh, like, or, uh-oh. So that I
Yeah.
really get up. And little did I know that later that you were around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea. And I remember hearing, couldn't understand the words, but I could hear two men and a woman on the
Okay.
headset. And I didn't really realize until I came out and someone asked me and they had heard the same thing.
Yeah.
So you were doing the Estes, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Estes, yeah.
She was
Where she
using
had
the
had the
SB11.
headphones on,
Mhm.
plugged into the. I think we're using Ashley's
Oh
actually.
yeah, we were
SB7
using the
on that one, but,
SB7 on that
And it was
one.
where
So
it was like where they kept the bodies at the hospital, right?
right.
mhm.
So
Yep.
it was
Yeah,
like
and then we
her
had
morgue.
everybody else kind of through a little bathroom area, and
Mhm.
then
Yeah.
just kind of sitting in a room around the corner
Yeah.
there asking questions. But I put the headset on that night too, and you couldn't hear shit from anybody asking the question.
No,
Like,
you weren't
couldn't hear
doing
anything.
anything. That's why I'm thinking. And then it's funny because your senses, it's so interesting because I remember just
Mhm.
staring at Michael and I remember my eyes kept getting dry and I had to like close them because I was staring so intently at him. Like, give me a sign if I have to get up or,
Yeah.
and I wanted to hear
So
something.
Or
go by.
squeal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so I mean that's something that I want to make sure that I highlight too is like number one, you didn't know what an Estes method was.
don't know.
Never touched an
Don't know any of
SB7
this
or,
stuff.
so this is all brand new. You're like, okay, so you want me to take this little box
Mhm.
here and you want me to put headphones on and do
And
what?
go sit in
And
the
go
body
sit in a
box
body
by
box.
And
myself.
what am I supposed
Okay,
to do?
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so no, I mean, and I think that was again, I'll say it again, like that was incredible, just especially being your first time and you not knowing what these what
99% of people would not
Oh,
do
that's
that
funny.
yeah
I
on their
think
first
safe
yeah
with you
route.
guys though. I think that's too. because I don't think you guys would have
Yeah.
put me in a situation where it would have
Mm.
like left me trauma or
Oh no.
so I felt safe. So because I don't think you would have said, "Hey, do you want to go in there?" Unless you
Yeah.
And that's why I was in there
Uh-huh.
with a camera
Uh-huh.
watching. I
Yeah.
mean, you
Mhm.
could see me, I could see
Yeah,
you, but
there's a
I
safety.
wasn't interacting with
I
you.
would have
Mhm.
went in there, I
It's like
think,
a
if
safe.
had AJ been standing there or anyone else,
Mhm.
because I
Right.
don't know them. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, even when I went in there, AJ sat where I was. That
Yeah.
way, we still have the buddy system.
I
I've
was
Is
got
about
the
to
what
buddy
it
say
system.
is.
buddy system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was neat, and I think, and I know this sounds weird, but it was kind of neat to stay in that box because you just thought of all the people that had been in there. To me,
Mhm.
that's
Right.
so like, wow, who was in here?
Yeah.
You know?
And is the ones that you hear
Mm-hmm.
were they
Yeah.
were they in there or are they just passing
Yeah.
through? So it is interesting to think about those kind of
Yeah.
things too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
So overall that night, like, was there anything? I know you had no
Mm-mm.
expectations. So what surprised you? I mean, I know Marissa obviously blew your
Yeah.
mind like she does pretty much everybody that comes to the events, but like anything else you pulled out of the event that night? Like
It definitely
that stuck out to
Marissa.
you?
It surprised me how much other people rely on Marissa to figure things out. And that surprised me. I thought kind of everyone was going to be independent, but I didn't realize
Mhm.
how much that Marissa they really count on. Like, Marissa, what do you think of this? Marissa, what do you think of that? Marissa, go down this hallway. And I remember when you were like, well, okay. And I remember getting my phone out and or the flashlight, and I was trying to give you like a light to on the path,
Mhm.
but you weren't. You just walked down there, and so that surprised me that so many people was like Marissa, 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 Marissa. It's like, oh my god, they really
Mhm.
look up to her and they respect
I'm
her.
Yeah, she is
good
she is the
bait.
definition. That's why
Mhm.
we don't call her medium or we call her the spirit
Yeah.
guide
Mhm.
because legit,
It
that is
surprised me.
what she
Yeah, it
is.
surprised me
Yeah.
how many people were attracted to her. And I've always said, you know, how you're attracted funny people, or you're attracted nice people, attracted,
Mhm.
and how many people are attracted to you in what you bring. So that surprised me. The whole night. Actually, I was a little surprised that I wasn't more scared. I
Really?
was expecting to constantly be like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and see things that weren't there, or hear things that weren't there. I think I was really like, oh man, I'm gonna be scared shit. It's gonna be like a horror movie where every
Like I'm
Like
not
a spook
going
yeah,
house.
yeah, I'm
someone's
not going
standing
to
there.
pee by myself.
There was
Yeah.
nothing like that. I'm like, oh, like
Mhm.
I'm not scared. I felt very calm. I didn't feel like anything was gonna hurt me. I didn't feel like,
Mhm.
yeah, that really surprised that I had
Well, that's
it
good to
was more like an
hear.
educational experience. So
Yeah.
in that,
Yeah.
and I think if people go to this, that's what it's such an education.
That's how I feel too. I feel
Mhm.
like every time that we go to another location, it's another learning
Mhm.
experience cuz number 1, we're going somewhere that it's a allegation.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this place is haunted. Well, we're going to go investigate it and see yay or nay. But we learn something different every single time in every single place.
Mhm.
So I agree with that
Big
statement. Like
education.
it is
I think,
it's good
and
education.
the other thing that I think kind of surprised me a little bit, I guess I was expecting every time there was a noise or something moved that I guess I expected everyone to say, "Yep, there's a ghost. Yep, yep, there's a
Mhm.
spirit. Yep." But
Mhm.
you were always trying to like
Yeah, we always
you,
debunk is the
that's the
Mhm.
word,
word. You were trying to
basically.
Yeah.
debunk it
Yeah.
because I remember seeing the balloon moving. And
Mhm.
everyone's like, oh my God, the balloon, you know, and everyone was freaking out.
Mhm.
I was behind you and you walked
Mhm.
quietly down there and then you're like, nope. And then you was like, the window's open.
Mhm.
But everyone else didn't even think to, I mean, it seemed like such a common
Yeah.
sense thing, but people are so heightened to find something. It
Oh
makes
yeah.
sense where you're like, nope, 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 nope.
Yeah.
And then once in a while, and I found that interesting, I guess, because people want to feel like they get
Like you
value
caught
for their
something.
money. It's
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
right. It's
Yeah.
just like a home inspection. If I'm going to hire you and pay you
Mhm.
$500, you better find something. And even if they can't find
Yeah.
something, you
Yeah.
write something down. So it's like, well, see, you paid me, so I gave you something, but you don't
Yeah.
do that. And that I was surprised. And then when we went to the second hunt, it was like I already knew to expect that. No, she will not immediately stroke you and be like, "Oh yeah, yeah." You're like, No, no," and I
Well, I
appreciate
wouldn't.
that.
Yeah,
It's honesty.
I would. Yeah, I wouldn't want somebody to
Mhm,
just, I think you used the right term. Like, I wouldn't want somebody to stroke me and just
mhm,
like make me, I don't know. I wouldn't appreciate that. So
mhm,
I don't. I
mm-mm.
definitely, if there's a, because believe me when I say I've had the wind let out of my sails debunking some of our own stuff before, and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, we got
oh
episodes coming up on that.
Yeah,
man,
because there's no way there can be 500 spirits running around, moving every
right,
balloon, turning on every light, making every noise. There's no way, but
on
everyone gets there
demand.
and they want to experience it. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
anything and everything
Mm-hmm.
and then, so yeah, I think that's the price too, that you were so quick to be like,
Yeah, I definitely like to keep the options open.
mhm,
I'll recreate some kind of scene if that's
mhm,
possible. Recreate a sound, recreate
yeah,
a temperature. Not that I can control
A creak,
temperature,
a
but
bang.
a creak, a
Yeah.
bang. Yeah, all of those things, like, because it does kind of help support what we're
mhm,
doing, which is educating. Like, you know, don't don't immediately rush to try to get the corners of your house cleaned out
yeah,
because something's gonna attack you in the night
mhm,
because you got a leaky pipe. I mean,
mhm.
and we've we've been there
We've
too.
lived in houses with
Yeah.
banging pipes. That
Yeah.
was
But
not
that is what
good.
people
Yeah.
think,
For
though.
sure.
Yeah, it is. It
Mhm,
is. And it creates that whole entire, you know, that feeling of just fear and just a whole nother perspective that I have that I want to I shouldn't say like project onto others, but just help others understand
mhm,
is like don't don't be so afraid. Check it out
yeah.
first. So I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up too, and that got your attention
Mhm.
because again, I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, I
I think I
remembered
forget a lot.
everything.
I think I forget a lot of things
I
more than I
remember
remember them
as if it
by.
was yesterday. I remember the Candyman. I remember
Mm-hmm.
the nurse in the bathroom at the
Oh
nurse
yeah, Nurse
station.
Betty.
I remember
Nurse
that.
Betty. I forgot
I
about that
I
too.
I
remember
Yeah.
did too.
everything. 'Cause it
Now
was
that
a
you said that,
sponge. It was a
yeah,
sponge.
no, now that you said, I forgot about
Mhm,
Nurse Betty because AJ did ask if I would go in there
mhm,
or like, what did I get from that?
mhm.
And so I told him, I was like, I think I kept like
You did.
scratching.
Yeah,
I was like, something
yeah.
like
You
she's hit
kept
her
doing that.
head. Like there's
And the door, I
and I,
can't open the
and the
door.
door.
There's something
Yeah.
wrong with the door. The door won't
Yeah.
open. And then come to
Yeah. I
find
thought that was,
out, she had a heart attack, fell,
mm,
hit her head, was
mm-hmm,
bleeding. And then when the
mm-hmm,
paramedics showed up, they couldn't open the door because she was such a large woman that
mm-hmm.
she was behind the door and they couldn't open up the door.
Yeah. Cause the doors used to open towards the
The other way,
inside
yeah.
instead of towards the outside.
Uh
Yeah.
huh.
Yeah.
And that shocked me. I had
Yeah.
no idea. Yeah. So that was,
It was good to know that too. Like and that's why I'm so grateful for Ashley and AJ because
oh,
they definitely
they're so
they know
good.
everything there is to know about that place and they're like super informative.
And
So
Ashley's
that
so
was
soothing when she talks.
didn't she though?
She's so
Yeah,
soothing.
she is.
Yeah.
She's
She's
awesome.
so
I love
gentle
to.
when
Yeah,
she talks to
yeah,
people. She just like, yeah, she has a gift
yeah. She does.
for
I
calmness.
can
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely agree
Yeah.
with
And
that.
then that lady in the room, I forget her name. You
Nellie, Miss Nellie.
Nelly. See, you remember I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a name remember. I can remember
Mm-hmm.
things, but that was
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah, that one got pretty cool. So that was the room where you got to I think I handed you the dowsing
Mm-hmm.
rods.
Mm-hmm.
And so
But by then you
uh
think she had left.
yeah,
Remember
Yeah.
that?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I felt bad too cuz I was like, "Dang it. I really
Everyone
want."
held it, and then by the time it came to me, but I think
Mhm.
it got a little. I think people were getting tired, and people were like laying
Yeah.
down, and
Yeah.
and I remember
Yeah. The energy was
it
low.
was and I
Yeah.
remember
Low
Yeah.
energy.
when we first walked in there, it felt like we were walking through fog, and I remember saying that to you, like
Mhm.
it
I
feels
remember
so
you saying that.
heavy in here. It was just like, and you're like, yeah,
Mhm.
there's people in
Yep.
here, and I
Yep.
remember
Yeah.
later that it felt eerie and fresh.
Mhm.
It was interesting.
I definitely felt that too
Mhm,
when we were leaving that room. I was like, wow, it's almost drafty
mhm,
because like
mhm,
it was definitely the presence
mhm.
had just kind of
Yeah,
depleted. So
yeah.
um
And I know we had like a lot of personal experiences, but I want to play a clip.
When you stayed here? I just feel like there's constantly just something behind me.
there he is.
What did you think about the EVP we got?
God, I don't even know all the emotions.
Yeah,
When I-
Because
tell us.
it kind of seemed like it was centered around you
Well, and I
almost.
hadn't slept.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, Marissa, I
Mhm.
even told you I was on such a high
Yeah.
driving home, and my head
Mhm.
was just, and I got all the way home. And I think I got home at like 7 in the morning, 8 in the
Mhm.
morning, something like that.
Mhm.
And my husband's like, "Oh, do you want to go to, are you going to go to sleep?" I'm like, "No, are you kidding me?" And I was just like all excited. And I started telling him stuff. And I had so much energy. We went for a walk.
The sound, like, how do you
How do
explain
you
How
that?
do
explain
you
the sound?
explain
Like,
that sound?
And when you kept
we
asking,
were all sitting in the room.
Yeah.
I never heard
we
anything
would have
in
heard.
my
Oh, I would
ears.
have heard it. Like
Yeah,
literally, it was
surely.
what, 18
I
inches
mean,
from my ear? Like 4 inches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it had to have been.
I would have heard.
Yeah. It when I played it back, yeah, I mean, and to be fair, none of us reacted.
None.
So we did not hear that. None of us
Mm-mm.
heard it.
Mm-mm.
Only
And that was shot on a night vision camera, which is why it looks so bright.
Mm-hmm.
And it was shot with a shotgun mic, which
Mhm.
is a directional mic. So even if me, the camera guy, I mean, I would think you guys would have heard me fucking growling into the camera,
Yeah.
as loud as that was.
We didn't know
But
if it was
even
so
if you
quiet.
didn't,
Remember?
Yeah.
yeah,
Look-
it would have sounded
Mhm.
different if I
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
doing it. You wouldn't have even heard it with a shotgun
No.
mic.
I think there
No.
It
everyone
had
was
to be
holding their
coming from
breath.
Lanita.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We were in a chapel. We were in a makeshift chapel, right?
And I'm
Yeah.
sitting in there explaining to you what
Yes.
I found.
So we were all so quiet. I think we were
Yeah.
really breathing because we were so intensely listening to what
Mm.
you were
Yeah.
seeing that we were just like almost holding our breath. And then someone would ask a question. I know Ashley was asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that would have not interrupted all of us.
Oh yeah, I know.
That's insane.
That's
That's one of
the-
the best EVPs.
It
we've ever
really
got.
is. That is the best one we've ever gotten. Because and what did you think that
I'm
it
trying to
said?
remember. I'd have to listen to it again on what it said.
I thought it said enemy
Yeah.
at first, and then Michael, didn't you think it said it was me?
It was me.
Yeah.
It was
It
me.
was
I remember.
Yeah, I
thinking
think
it
you
was-
both agreed
thought
with
it said
that. Yeah,
It was me.
that it was me.
So when you were
So-
Because I think AJ was asking, or somebody was asking, was that the same person you heard?
Yeah.
Back when you worked here.
Marissa,
He
you were
was-
talking about people. Remember, you were saying there were some people sitting
Yeah.
over here. Is that who it was? They said it was me. That was still that. Oh my gosh! And I have it on my phone, and I've shown it to people.
what did they say?
They're-
Like,
Excited.
yeah,
They're like, "Oh my god, what is that?" Like they literally cannot figure out what it is.
I think my brother told me he was
Join
like, I
the
would not have
club.
that shit on my phone. I'm like, oh my,
Yeah.
It's.
I was like,
I
just
want it on my
watch
phone. Well, it's
crazy.
He's so and I just find this. It's fascinating. It's
Yeah, I mean, it just
fascinating.
makes you want to go back for more.
It
Yeah,
does. I'm addicted.
Like I want to. Yeah, that's that's a very good.
I'm
Speaking of
that's a
going
very
back
good
for
one.
more, let's talk briefly about Bobby Mackey's.
Yeah.
So you had one of those weird experiences there where you seen
Oh,
something
this is crazy.
sitting in front of a bunch of
Oh,
other people
yeah.
that nobody else even seen
Yeah.
except for you and one other person.
One other person, and I did not know that other person. It was your friend, Magic,
Magic, yeah.
and we were sitting at a table, and in Bobby Mackey's, kind of on a platform, and
Mhm.
there was a ashtray, and you know how they have that the middle where you smoke and you put your cigarette. I forget what that's called. And I remember us all sitting down, and there was a cigarette butt. So think of just a cigarette butt, but it was upside down. So the mouthpiece, the filter was here, and then just a little stub. And I remember sitting down, I saw it, and Michael was sitting across from me, Marissa sitting there, Ashley sitting next to me here, Magic was behind me, and we're all just sitting there, and everyone's kind of talking, and I looked down, and it was lit. The cigarette was lit. And I remember I just kept looking at it, and I looked at Michael, and then I looked at Marissa, I looked at him, I was like, is no one else seeing this? Like, this is a dark room. Like,
Yeah,
And we had been there for
over an
a
hour.
couple of hours at
Yeah.
that point, I think.
And I kept
none of us smoking inside.
And I kept
Right.
looking at it and looking at it and looking at it. And I was like, there is a cigarette lit right in front of me. And then Michael said, does anyone smell cigarette smoke?
Yeah,
And
I could smell
right
it.
when I
Yeah.
said it was gone. The light
Mhm.
went out. And then I thought I have to say something because usually I'm pretty quiet at these things.
Mm.
I just don't, I'm just not that
Yeah.
person. And I go, I know you guys aren't going to believe me, but, and right when I started to say that cigarette was lit, Magic said that cigarette was lit. And I remember
Yeah.
turning to him going, you saw it too? And he goes, I thought I was the only one that saw it. And I go, I thought I was the only one that saw it. So for some reason, only he and I saw that cigarette.
Yeah, and everybody said, "No, we didn't see it.
Yeah,
Even
it
I
was
did.
bright.
I smelled it.
It was
I didn't
as
see
if
it.
so
Yeah.
you know how you blow into it, you puff a
Yeah.
cigarette.
Got the cherry fired up.
Really
Yeah.
cherry, yeah. And it was
Yeah.
cherried, and it was so bizarre. And the whole time I just kept staring at it.
And to set the scene, we were sitting at a table, like one of those like cheap, flimsy, like fold out tables.
Yeah, it was like an 8
And
by
so
10,
it was like,
or
yeah,
like
8
a
by 10.
4 by 10 table.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
we were not,
card table.
we weren't sitting at like this
Mm-mm,
gigantic, like
mm-mm.
the visual angle that everybody had
Oh,
had
I could
ability to
reach.
see that.
We're all
Yeah,
around
I
it.
could
we
have
were
touched
literally
Ashley. I could
within,
have touched
yeah,
Michael.
yeah,
Michael
we
was
were all within
literally
arm's reach of each
4 feet,
other,
3 feet
and
from.
the
Mm-hmm,
yeah,
mm-hmm,
and the only two that
mm-hmm,
saw it
mm-hmm,
was Lanita and
uh-huh.
and Magic.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I mean, we could smell it.
Mm-hmm. But it's
I
funny, I
had
didn't smell it until Michael said it, but
I
yet it
didn't
was
smell it
lit.
until he said
As soon
it.
as he said it,
Yeah.
I smelled it, and that's when I started. And it was like, oh, it's not there
Mm-hmm.
anymore. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And just to preface that, this was the worst fucking investigation I've ever been on in my
See, and
life.
I've only been on
Like,
2, so I
yeah, yeah. So
looked like
your second investigation was Bobby fucking
yeah.
Mackey's. I hate to say fuck more than fucking twice in a fucking row, but Bobby Mackey's. And then we had two guests come all the way from Michigan,
Yeah,
only
Mm-hmm.
to get their windows knocked out and their car robbed while we're doing a
I
walkthrough.
know.
Yeah, they
Here
didn't.
in
Well,
the
they didn't even
history
get
on the
to.
place.
Mm-mm.
They didn't even get to participate.
No.
So I just came out and from literally taping a tarp over their window so they can get home so they don't get rain in their car. So I wasn't even in the mood for ghost hunting at this point, and then this happens
Well,
like immediately.
I remember
Yeah.
Marissa saying they don't want us here. I remember,
Yeah.
Marissa, you said that there was 4.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you saying for some reason that there was 4 and that
Mm-hmm.
they don't want us here. They're not going to interact with us.
Mm-mm.
They don't care. And I remember that because I remember how hard everyone was trying. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
watching you because I always watch you. I'm so like
Mm-hmm.
focused on you, and you seemed out of it. You seemed
Yeah.
unfocused, like you just could not get your bearings.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just couldn't.
I couldn't. Yeah,
Mhm.
they were. I feel like, yeah, they were
Equipment
like
broke,
making sure
remember?
of that. None of
Equip-
our equipment worked.
None of the equipment. I remember you guys handed me that big, huge camera. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember thinking, oh, God, this is probably thousands of dollars. I got to be super careful. And I remember how careful I was setting it
Mm-hmm.
down and then just not touching it. And what happened at the end, it was off.
It was
Remember
off
that? Didn't
because
record one
I
thing.
turned it on and I checked it and
Mhm.
it's recording.
Mhm.
And I said, "Here, I'm gonna go sit over here in front of the stage, and you point it towards me,
Mhm.
so that way,
Perfect.
And all
Mhm.
you did was literally
Yeah.
just walk it over
Yeah.
and sit it
Mhm.
down. Yeah, it didn't work.
Uh-uh.
None of our audio worked. Our night vision camera, there's no audio on it. I mean, it felt intentional, which clearly I took very personally because I was like, oh, you know what?
And we didn't even know this at the
And
time.
we didn't
but
know it.
4 days later, they demoed the place.
Yeah.
I know. I
So
remember you coming back to work and
So
see.
we were the we
we
were
were
the last
probably
ones
the
there.
last. We
Because it was
had to
a
be one. We're the last.
Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Mhm.
Sunday
Yeah, it was a
night?
Sunday
And they
night
were only open Fridays
investigation.
and Saturdays.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we
So
were
we
the
were
last
the last
ones.
ones in.
Yeah.
they I think they bulldozed it like that Thursday.
Mhm.
Right.
So yeah, we had to have
That's
been the last
crazy.
ones in there. But that place was off that
It
night. Like
was
we'd
not.
never been there, but that was wild. Like
Nothing was
what a
going
hell
on.
mission.
Remember all of us
Yeah.
girls fit into that little tiny box where
Yeah.
they thought that
Yeah.
they kept, like, I think it was like prostitutes or something.
Prostitutes. Yeah.
And y'all were
Yeah.
thought,
Yeah.
and they're like nothing.
No.
Mm-mm. No.
No equipment. No. Like. I mean, literally nothing.
Mhm.
And then our well, I think Mike
Just
dropped
a
our
really bad
envoy,
vibe.
but
I did. I definitely dropped the envoy.
I'm sorry. I'm not throwing shade at you. It
It's okay.
already didn't. It was already struggling anyway.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So out of both places though, which do you have the same feelings towards both places, or do
No.
you like one more than the
Yeah, I like
other,
this one in
or
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was my first, but
Yeah.
still, it was just people have to experience it. And I know that when
Mm-hmm.
people think of like, ghost hunting or spirits or stuff like that, they think, oh, I can't do this. I have to go to church in the morning, or,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Christian. I can't do that. But yet, I can't tell you how many sermons I go to and the preacher talks about spirits and people
Mm-hmm.
around us, and there's bad spirits and
Mm-hmm.
good spirits and stuff like that. So how is that any different than what?
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So I
Yeah.
don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong. I don't think if people think, oh, I'm a
Right.
Christian, I can't do stuff like that. And that's not what this is about. It's not, I never thought I'm going to go in there and I'm going to see Satan and there's going to be blood throwing around the wall and, we're going to sacrifice chickens. And I never thought anything like that. Like, that's not what this is about. But I think people think, because people are intrigued by it,
Yeah.
but they always, I think that Christian pulls them back, and I
Yeah.
don't understand. I don't understand it.
And we're in the Bible Belt too, so I mean,
And
it's
we are in the Bible
definitely
because, like, up
Yeah.
north, it
it's
seems
touch
like
and go.
a
Yeah.
little different. But
It's
like when
touch
my
and go.
husband made that such a good point, which we had
Mm-hmm.
talked about, like,
Mm-hmm.
where do they go? So
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
someone dies and they were such a good person, they were giving and caring, but they never got baptized, or maybe they didn't believe in God. Well,
Mm-hmm.
well, that they're going
Yeah.
to go to heaven. So where are they?
That's what we do.
And
We
even some of
investigate it.
them, maybe they weren't ever a person.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I know it sounds crazy, but
Mhm.
I don't think there's any professionals in the field. To be fair, the only professionals are the ones who admit they don't know what the fuck they're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
me, that's as close as a professional as you can
Yeah.
get in ghost hunting.
I urge people to go because it's something that it's so exciting. It's
It really
it's
is.
so it's not what you think.
Yeah.
It's like history mixed
Oh,
with
history.
excitement. If you're not
Yeah.
excited about history,
Mhm.
I think ghost hunting could get you
I kept
excited about
touching
it.
everything.
Yeah.
I remember being at South Pittsburgh
Yeah.
Hospital. I remember I wanted to touch every doorknob
Mm-hmm.
because I kept
Mm-hmm.
thinking how many people walked through this room, how many people died in
Yeah.
this room, how many sad people, how many people had a baby and gave birth, how many people. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just that history, just standing behind a nurse's station. I was excited. I've never done that.
Yeah. I've never done that.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh my
I
God,
thought that was super
yeah, I feel
cool.
like a nurse. You kind of stand there
Yeah.
and you're like, well, this is kind of cool. But to me, it was like, how many people walked up and down this? And, I don't know. To me, it's the history, it's the education.
I'm glad to know that. But yeah, no, I'm glad to know that it wasn't at any point, even during our bad one at Bobby Mack.
Mhm.
I'll repeat that again. Bad one at
Mm-mm.
Bobby.
Yeah.
That you didn't feel scared,
Right.
and you've really helped explain like what all made you comfortable and why
So
and all
comfortable.
that. So
Yeah.
yeah, do you have anywhere on this? It's maybe too premature, but like, do you have anywhere on a bucket list of places since you've been at least to your second one? Is there somewhere that you would want to go, or have you even looked into that?
I'm now starting to look more and more, and I know I've sent
Mhm.
you some stuff. You've been sending
Mhm.
me some stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. Because I think what's interesting is everybody automatically assumes, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but people want to go anywhere that is abandoned. Does that always mean there's something there? Does it,
Right.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, oh, there was an abandoned house. Does that
Mm,
automatically mean
Does that mean
yeah,
it's
what does that
haunted?
mean?
I
Yeah.
think it's because when you see abandoned places, like you think
Creepy.
creepy. You're
Mhm.
creeped out
Yeah, it's
automatically.
scary.
So
Yeah.
True.
So
True.
I'm so open to any.
I can't wait to take you to Octagon
Yeah, I
House.
can't. I'm excited. I can't wait.
with me, the funny thing is like cemeteries, because you hear all these paranormal investigators, they
Oh
want to go to
yeah.
the cemetery, or they go shoot video in the cemetery. And to me, I don't think I've ever been in a cemetery that I felt was haunted.
And
Not the
I
first time.
watched a video and someone was laughing about that. And they said, yeah, ghosts and spirits are not sitting on their tombstones.
I know.
They're
They're
not
ragged
sitting-
bones.
Yeah, they're
like,
not
why
just
would you
sitting
be
there,
chilling there?
like
Yeah,
waiting for
I
people.
don't get it. Maybe here and
Well,
there, but it's not. I don't think it's a hot
Yeah,
spot.
no,
I
I've
think
heard
they're
that.
just using it like a bypass. They're like, oh, cut through the cemetery and head to this abandoned house.
Yeah.
But
Like that's kind of what I think of, because somebody's asked me that before too. Like, what do you think about cemeteries? I
Mhm.
was like, I really don't think they hang out there as much. I could be wrong. I can always be wrong. I
Absolutely.
personally have not ever
Okay.
encountered anything that made me feel like they are really partying it down over there in the cemetery. No, I don't. They're wandering,
Yeah.
which is why, in an active house, meaning like my house or your house, there's people in it all the time.
Mhm.
A lot of stuff. This is what you do hear things. It's not because they're hanging out in the cemetery. No, they're passing through.
Mhm.
But that's my
And that
personal
I know.
belief too. Is that just because I have no evidence to support. Like, yep, they meet every Wednesday
Well,
night over there at the old cemetery grounds.
but see,
Like,
people want to know that stuff. Like,
yeah, yeah,
why did they pass through, and when do they do it,
mm-hmm,
and do they stay for 3 months or 3
yeah,
minutes, and
yeah,
do they want to be where it's abandoned, or do they find a loving household, or where they
mm-hmm,
feel like there's people around? Like, to me, I find that
mm-hmm,
interesting. Like, you
Yeah.
wish you had the answers. Like, really,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And I think that when you do get to talk to them,
mm-hmm,
and I think those would be some interesting questions if you can get the answers of how long have you been here, and I don't know if they say anything, because I mean, I've heard the voices
mm-hmm.
come out of the box.
Yeah, it can happen
And it
now.
startled the
Like
crap
now
out of
you've
me.
got,
The time that told me not, I couldn't come down there with you. And I
oh
stood in front of
yeah,
Michael, and you said, Lanita, come on down here. And I started to walk, and all of a sudden that voice boomed out and said, no, she can't. And it was clear as day. And I
yep,
froze. And you
mm-hmm.
were like, no, you be nice. She can come down here. And then I was like, supposed to do. Like, I listen to
I
the
don't know
guy
who
in the
to listen
box,
to.
or I listen to Marissa. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I remember, and I was like,
I do remember you like taking a step and then
I was
being
like,
back.
I didn't
Like,
know. Uh-huh. But to me, that there's so many cool questions that now I'm
mm-hmm.
starting to think of them. But I know I still won't talk for a while because
Oh,
I'm a
you should.
newbie. So I still want to.
I mean, there's no other way to do it than just to do it. And I think because you think about it a lot,
Oh, I think about it all the
it,
time.
it'll give you a lot of like a nice list of questions. Cause I know
Yeah.
I get tired of saying this. And I catch myself doing it all the time of like, what's your name?
Oh,
What's your,
Did you die
did
here?
you
yeah.
die
How
here?
old are you?
I get tired of asking that. So I do the same thing, but it doesn't stop me from still asking the same
Yeah.
questions over and over. I joke a lot about like, oh, they're so tired of hearing this. Like they're not
But I
going
do
to
like the
respond. Just
gift
be like,
idea. I think that's kind of cool. The whole
yeah,
thing of
yeah, the
bringing
offering.
something.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's important, I mean, and the more that you get into this, you kind of everything is trial and error, and everything's a test, which is all an investigation
Yeah. I
is,
think
right?
that's
Like you're
neat.
just searching. So,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
but
Just
it's nice to hear it from somebody who's never
Mhm.
ever,
I wasn't
you know,
raised around anything like that. But like, I was
right.
raised Pentecostal, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
The only experience is people telling me things and opening up
Yeah,
and just telling me,
yeah.
oh, I believe in this, I believe in this, and I saw this, and I saw this. And I'm like, oh my God. But
Well, and people that know you,
yeah, they know I'm very,
yeah, and that they know you, like you are open minded, you are
uh-huh.
very
But
receptive.
I'm very black and white too. So I'm very
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I am open minded,
yeah,
absolutely. But I just don't believe anything. I'm one of those people who are
yeah,
like,
yeah. Like you're not gonna
I
bullshit
still
you.
should. So I'm
Yeah,
very much
you're
that
not.
person.
Yeah, you're not gonna bullshit you.
Uh-uh.
I've seen that in the
Mm-mm,
flesh.
mm-mm. Like, you can't get a vibe on me on a lot of stuff. And so
Yeah.
I think anyone that knows me would be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
if Lanita believes into this, now I'm probably
Yeah.
a little bit more apt to believe
Mm-hmm.
something because she just doesn't fall for anything.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
because I'm just fascinated with this. I can't even tell
Well,
you.
that was my last. I think that was gonna be my last question too. Was like the people that know you so well, and they know like you are receptive. You people do come to you for all kinds of things. What did the people that, like your husband and your son and daughter or anybody else that you're super close with, what did they think
My mom
about
was
you doing
excited.
this?
So my mom was
Okay.
excited. So when I had just started the company, remember my uncle Ken
Mm-hmm.
died,
Yes. So.
and I went back to the Quad Cities for his
Mm-hmm.
funeral, and it was me and my daughter Jessica, and my mom's cousin had come
Mm-hmm.
in from Southern Illinois, and she was sitting on the couch, and that's where it was a childhood home, and my grandma and grandpa built the house, and my grandma died there. And my mom's cousin kept seeing my grandma, and she kept
Oh,
saying,
wow.
and my mom's name is Twyla, and she goes, Twyla, Betty's sitting right over there, which is my grandma's name. Her name.
Oh, wow.
And my mom just was so quiet, and she kept saying, and after she left, and I said, do you believe her? And she goes, I do. She goes, she's my cousin. I've known her all my life. And, they're in
Right.
their 70s. And
Yeah.
I said, I believe her too. And so then I told my mom about you and everything. My mom was fascinated and was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing this. This is so cool. So she was super excited. My husband doesn't want to get involved in anything. Like I always joke, he's one of those people that he'll do something and there'll be like 40 strangers in his house. He always says that they'll just be fucking with him and moving his shit. And so he's like, I don't even want to open up the can. He's like, my luck, So yeah, so I kind of don't tell too many of my family members. It's so weird. But I tell like strangers.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird?
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't know.
I-
Maybe because
yeah.
I'm not around family anymore now that I live in China.
Well,
So I'm not really
yeah.
around anybody. But yeah, when I told my mom, it is only because her cousin right in front of me and Jessica was like, Betty's standing right there. Your mom's standing right or sitting right there.
Yeah, it's fun to bounce stuff off people you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. You get that raw response,
Yeah.
and no preface.
Look at my
with it,
daughter-in-law. Look at my daughter-in-law. Immediately,
Yeah.
boom. And then my son was just sitting there and he's like, Dad, do you believe this? And Dad's like, I'm staying out of this stuff. But you could tell my son, because my son believes me.
Yeah.
He knows I've never
Yeah.
lied to him. I always joke with you. I never like,
Yeah.
kids, I always tell him,
Yeah.
no, you suck at this. And no, you shouldn't date this person for this. I've always been, so when I
Yeah.
say something, my son's more of a, okay, mom believes something.
Might be something to
And
it.
there might be something to it, especially now that his wife is, so I urge
Would you
people-
say that? Would you say that you've gotten more positive response when you get that raw reaction? Because I mean,
You're
some of the
intrigued.
people that you tell,
You're intrigued.
some of the people that you tell, like you said, they're strangers. So I'm always curious too, because I'm cautious myself a little bit. I'm not as like I won't talk about it on the ball field,
Okay.
but just because I'm like, oh, they are not inviting my son to a birthday
That's
party.
so
They know
funny.
what we do.
I think it's because
But,
I'm genuine. Like,
yeah.
I mean it. Like, I
Yeah.
truly believe.
Yeah. Say it with your chest. For sure.
Yeah, I'm very much like, and I think that people are just kind of like, oh, interesting. And then they're kind of like, at my grandma's house, I used to, smell certain scents when I walked into a certain, and then it is funny how it triggers them into remembering something. And then it's like,
So my camera died. We'll probably have to wrap it.
Oh,
So
okay.
I won't be in land of it. And so,
Oh, yeah. No, we
We're like-
probably
I
both
could talk about
so-
this stuff all night.
No, same.
No, it's good.
I'd
And
love
we'll
this.
definitely be bringing you back.
Yeah, 'cause I
Yeah.
love this stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna have a whole lot of more
Yeah,
episodes
we got a lot of
coming
stuff
up,
planned.
and
So.
as soon as we go on our next one too, which is still in the works, so you're going with us.
Yeah, because I
no
want to put
doubt.
like T-shirts and stuff like that. I want to do like
Yeah.
all this different stuff. Because
See, this is why Lanita's our favorite, because like she's like the poster child for
people
Ghost
talk to
Hunt
you.
Nation.
People will
yeah.
come right up to you. They do. That's why I
Yeah.
want a T-shirt, because I think people are so curious that they don't say anything until someone says something to them, and then
Yeah.
kind of like, I mean, stop and think for us. And we've talked to a few people that are kind
Yeah.
of like intrigued, and they're like, oh, well, if you two girls believe, there might be
Yeah.
something into this. So I do
Yeah.
want to like talk to people and get more people involved, because I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah. Well, we definitely appreciate you for so many reasons. And we are grateful that you picked us and let us take you on your first investigation, and that you are so
I'm your number one
descriptive
fan.
and, like,
Trust me.
yeah.
never-
Well, well, again, this is why we love Lanita. So,
Thank you.
well, Michael,
And hopefully we'll be doing this once a week. We can't
Yeah.
guarantee it's going to be once a week, but that's what we're shooting
awesome.
for.
Yeah.
So
that's the goal.
That's
That is
awesome.
the
got
goal.
some evidence reviews. We're going to go over some equipment reviews. just maybe even some tutorials type stuff, showing
Mhm.
people how to work equipment.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
We're gonna go over some stuff that we've debunked of our own that
Mhm.
Marissa hates when we do it.
I hate it, but I have to face
She
it.
don't really. She loves it, but
That's funny.
thank you,
You're
Lanita.
welcome, you guys.
Yeah, thank you. I'll talk to you
Okay,
later.
thank you. Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.